Love, love, until I feel the breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Hello and welcome to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is Father Peter Ferwerda, and we'll be discussing Our Lady Queen of Peace's messages from Medjugorje on the 2nd of April 2016. Our Lady has been appearing in a little village called Medjugorje since 1981, June the 24th, and still is today. Welcome to the program, Father.
Thank you very much, Mirella.
It's good to have you here. So we'll be discussing Our Lady's message from the 2nd of April 2016. Before we start, did you want to say anything?
Yes, I've been to Medjugorje many times myself, and it's helped me enormously. In fact, it helped me to decide to become a priest, to change my life. But nevertheless, whatever the Church decides on Medjugorje, I shall abide by. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to preface anything I say with that comment, that whatever the Church decides, I will abide by.
Right. So I'll just start with the message from the 2nd of April 2016, and then we'll discuss it line by line. Our Lady said it's the day of unbelievers, and she doesn't call them unbelievers, she calls them people who haven't experienced the love of God yet. And it's also to everyone in the world. Our Lady said, "Dear children, do not have hearts that are hard, closed and filled with fear. Permit my motherly love to illuminate them and fill them with love and hope, so that as a mother I may soothe your pains, because I know them, I experience them. Pain elevates and is the greatest prayer. My Son, in a special way, loves those who suffer pains. He sent me to soothe them for you and bring hope. Trust in Him. I know that it is difficult for you because you see more and more darkness around you. My children, it is necessary to break it by prayer and love. The one who prays and loves is not afraid. He has hope and a merciful love. He sees the light and sees my Son. As my apostles, I call you to keep trying to be an example of merciful love and hope. Always pray anew for all the more love, because merciful love brings light which breaks every darkness. It brings my Son. Do not be afraid. You are not alone. I am with you. I implore you to pray for your shepherds, that at every moment they may have love, that they may work for my Son with love, through Him and in memory of Him. Thank you. So, Father, we'll start with the first line. Our Lady said, "Dear children, do not have hearts that are hard, closed and filled with fear." So straight away she's telling us, it's basically an examination of our conscience to understand, is my heart hard? Is it closed? Am I filled with fear? That's how I understand it. And then to correct it if we are feeling like that, and to try and let Our Lady in our hearts to work through us so that we're not closed and hard of heart.
Yes, that's how I see it too, Mirella. It is a challenge because at times I find myself, I've had a heart that's been a bit hard and closed and fearful. So this is a timely advice from our Blessed Mother to do something about it, and to all of us these messages are for the whole world. So it is a timely challenge for each one of us at this time.
And then Our Lady says, permit my motherly love to illuminate them and fill them with love and hope, so that as a mother I may soothe your pains, because I know them, I experience them. So here she's saying, let me in your heart, let me soothe your pains. I know that you suffered, and what you're suffering, I experienced the same, because she was human. So she understands the humanity of people's suffering. And I find also in life, sometimes you speak to people. I remember I had this incident where I was speaking to a friend, and they weren't Anglo-Saxon, they were from another nationality, and they were saying to me, oh, these Anglo-Saxon people have got it easy, and they're all happy, and and I was thinking, I couldn't believe this person was saying that. I was thinking, but I said to him, I said, everybody has suffering. You know, I said, this was years ago, and I said, everybody's got suffering though. I said, when you get to know every single person, you'll find that they have suffering. And I find that myself, doesn't matter who the person is. And they actually were pointing out some particular person. And I said, that's ironic, because I actually spoke to that actual person earlier, and she was telling me all these difficulties she was having. And he was like really happy in a way, because he was thinking, he thought he was different and all alone, and he had his own sufferings and other people didn't have them. It was a bit of a judgment on his part, I guess, but it was just because of lack of information, really. So everybody has their cross, you know, to carry.
Yes, in a way, as strange as it might sound, Mirella, it is good that we have a little bit of adversity in our life, and including myself, for every person, because it makes us think a bit, and makes us aware of our dependence on Jesus' help and Mary's help in our life. If everything was superbly rosy and we had no challenges, then we would not have a need of God as such. So in a way, the crosses that you're referring to, that each person carries, is also a way in which we can become closer to God through asking God to help us, and ask Him, and His Blessed Mother, who herself experienced them. She says that, as you mentioned, she was very human like us.
That's right. We'll have to go to a break now. You're watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.
Love, love, oh, till I feel the breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Hello and welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Father Peter Ferwerda, and we're discussing Our Lady Queen of Peace of Medjugorje's messages from the 2nd of April 2016 to everybody in the world. She's been appearing in a little village called Medjugorje in Bosnia-Herzegovina since June the 24th, 1981, and still is today. Welcome back to the program, Father.
Thank you, Mirella.
And the next part of the message, Our Lady says, pain elevates and is the greatest prayer. And I was thinking, pain elevates. So she's not even saying prayer. She's saying pain elevates and is the greatest prayer. So just being in pain is a prayer, which is interesting.
Yes, it's a very interesting comment, because pain, whether it's physical or emotional, elevates us, as she's saying, and is the greatest prayer. It's a mysterious phrase to me, but as I mentioned in the previous session, that perhaps Jesus uses our crosses to make us aware of Him, of our need for Him. Yeah. So in a way, and I do genuinely feel sorry for those who are suffering great pain, and we should pray for each other that we soothe each other's pains, because some people have enormous pain in their life.
Yeah, I remember hearing that someone had watched the film The Passion of Christ by Mel Gibson, and they'd committed a crime in their life, but they hadn't got caught. But after watching that film, they surrendered and went to the police and said, I'd done this, whatever the bad thing was. And they just felt they had to be true, had to be honest and live an honest life.
Yes.
I thought that's amazing that it can reach, you know, you don't know who you're reaching with your faith, or the movies, or this show, whatever, you know, you don't know who you're reaching, because all we have to do is open our hearts to let God in. That's the only way we'll know that he exists.
Yes.
And be humble.
Yes, and Jesus himself goes before us. We are trying to be his followers and best we can. And he himself trod the path of pain and rejection. He goes before us on that path, and he transformed the pain and rejection into love.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing to contemplate that Jesus' pain and rejection was turned by him into love. He loved those who were
In pain,
against him and those who came to him in their pain.
Because I remember once when I was in hospital, when I got run over and I was in really bad pain, and I just thought my whole life was almost over, because I was tightrope walking before that, dancing, singing, everything. And I remember this priest from the Vatican came in to visit me, and he said to me, he wrote me a letter as well, and he said, suffering on its own is like being in hell. But suffering, when you're suffering and you turn it into love, you love others during your pain, it is turned to more than gold. So it's like it transforms into something miraculous if you love in your suffering. And I just thought, this is like a little thing everybody could carry with them, you know, just when you go through difficult times. It's hard, nobody likes to suffer, but we can turn it into something absolutely miraculous if we love in it.
Yes. For that we need God's grace, because as mere human beings, we don't have that strength within ourselves. We need God's grace to be lovers of others, especially in difficult situations. But Jesus transformed that love when he was being crucified. He forgave the people who were crucifying him.
Yeah.
It's a great mystery.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful mystery and a beautiful example for us to try and follow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. Our Lady says, my son, in a special way, loves those who suffer pains. He sent me to soothe them for you and bring hope. Now that's really beautiful. Our Lady's saying why she's coming here as well. Another reason she's coming here, as well as to bring us peace, but also to soothe our pains and bring us hope, because we need to open our heart to her when we're in pain, because I think that's the problem a lot with the world today. Everyone's in pain and people are lashing out on other people in their pain, because if everyone was in peace in their pain and suffering and they had faith, they wouldn't want to bring harm to another human being. They would be carrying their own personal cross and living in harmony with everybody else. But because they don't know how to carry their cross, they strike out, they lash out, and it's not helping them, it's not helping the world, it's not helping God, it's not helping anybody. So if we can try and transform that in some way by just encouraging people to try and carry their own cross and be responsible for their own cross, rather than blaming other people for their crosses or throwing their crosses away in anger. And it's just try and look at our cross as our joy, because it can be our joy as well. It's our suffering, but it also can be our joy if we embrace it.
Yes, but again, I must reiterate that we need God's grace to do that.
Yeah.
Of ourselves, we do tend to perhaps complain or want to transfer our own frustrations to others, but I need to, everyone else as I see it, needs to pray to God for help, to carry our cross, to unite our cross with Jesus.
Yeah.
In order to be able to accept our cross, we need supernatural help. That's how I see it. We need to pray in our suffering. We need to pray, and there's nothing wrong with being consoled by someone else. Jesus himself, when he went into the Garden of Gethsemane, he wanted his apostles to be with him, Peter, James and John.
Yeah.
So he himself wanted a little bit of consolation, but we need to also rely on God's help. And it's so beautiful that Mary walks with us and is willing to help us, to console us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So then Our Lady says, trust in him. I know that it is difficult for you because you see more and more darkness around you. So she's saying she knows that we see more and more darkness around you. She knows, she can see what we're going through and what we can see. And I think the more you watch the news and the more things that you see that are negative, or the more that you talk to people who are negative about the world and things like that, it can bring you into a place of darkness, and then your own personal life if things aren't going well. But that's not the end of it.
All of the messages of Medjugorje, if we really look at them, they're hope-filled.
That's right.
Mary comes to bring us hope, and she continually asks us to pray.
That's right, because she says after that sentence, "My children, it is necessary to break it by prayer and love." Break that cycle of darkness by prayer and love. We have to go to a break now.
Thank you, Mirella.
You're watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us. We'll be back very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Father Peter Verwoerder and we're discussing Our Lady Queen of Peace's message from Medjugorje on the 2nd of April 2016 to every single person in the entire world, especially those who haven't experienced the love of God yet in their lives. Welcome back to the program, Father.
Thank you, Mirella.
So we'll keep going with the message. Our Lady says, "I call, as my apostles, I call you to keep trying to be an example of merciful love and hope." Then she says before that, "The one who prays and loves is not afraid. He has hope and a merciful love. He sees the light and sees my Son. As my apostles, I call you to keep trying to be an example of merciful love and hope. The one who prays and loves is not afraid. He has hope and a merciful love. He sees the light and sees my Son." I think that's powerful. You see Jesus when you pray and have love. When you love and pray, you actually see Jesus. That's just an amazing message, I think. It's amazing. It's just beautiful, isn't it? You can see Jesus only if you love and pray.
And love is a decision. It's more a decision than a sentiment. And sometimes we have to make a different decision to love, rather than just being a sentiment when you feel like it. Yeah. So, and again, I must reiterate that because we're human, we need God's help in these things to love the way in which God wants us to love. Yeah. We need God's help for that. Yeah.
It's true. And it's the only language everybody understands. Is love, you know.
Yes.
It doesn't matter where you are, even if you don't speak the language of another country. If you're in another country and don't speak the language, everybody understands love. It's in your eyes, it's in your face, it's in your actions, you know.
And Jesus established his church on love. In last Sunday's Gospel, he asked Peter, "Do you love me?" 3 times. Now, Peter had denied him 3 times, and Peter had to confirm his love for Jesus. Jesus knew that he loved him, and that his denial was out of fear rather than out of malice. But Jesus asked him 3 times to affirm that love, that he loved him. And it just showed that Jesus' church, a church that Jesus established, is established on love. So it's such an important thing in the gospel, that love. And Jesus gave us that commandment. He said, "I give you a new commandment." On Holy Thursday night he said that you love one another as I have loved you. It's a huge challenge, but a beautiful challenge, and it will give us joy whenever we try our best at it.
And sometimes I guess some people can't love, and I've been told they can't love because they haven't experienced love, like they haven't been really loved by their parents, for example. They haven't felt really loved by their parents or someone. They haven't felt really loved, so then it's hard for them to love if they haven't grown up with love. But the only other way you can change that is by being the first to love, even if you haven't experienced it, because once you make the mental effort to love, then the actual gift of love, like as you say, is a grace, will come next.
Yes, a decision not to retaliate, a decision again to love, and we need to call upon. That's why Our Lady's main message at Medjugorje is to pray, because we need to pray ourselves. We of ourselves. We need the strength that can only come from God. God is the good of the world, and in order to tap into that goodness, we need to pray for it as I see it. And so all of that we need to be prayerful and to make a decision to pray, to discipline ourselves to pray and to say, look, I'm going to be open to what Jesus is teaching me in the gospel. I'm going to pray. I'm going to try my best. And if we do that, that's all God wants of us, that we do our best to follow what he wants of us in the gospel.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I call you to keep trying to be an example of merciful love and hope. Always pray anew for all the more love, because merciful love brings light and breaks every darkness. It brings my Son. So all the love brings, if we just keep loving, it brings Jesus. Do not be afraid, you are not alone, I am with you, which is another beautiful one. She's saying she's with us. We're not alone. We might feel we are, but...
Yes, she's a real mum.
Yeah.
Beautiful mother.
Yeah. But also she mentions Jesus twice in here, because she says, the one who prays and loves is not afraid. He has hope and a merciful love. He sees the light and sees my Son. And then further down she says, always pray anew for all the more love, because merciful love brings light, which breaks every darkness. It brings my Son. So she's given us instructions. Pray for merciful love. Always pray anew for all the more love. Pray to be able to love, because it breaks that darkness and it gives you the ability to see the light and to see Jesus. So if we're not seeing the light and seeing Jesus, then we know exactly what we have to do. We have to pray more to be able to love. There's our answer.
And in John's Gospel, he says, God is love. So all love comes from God. And to love someone else, especially in a difficult situation, means that we've got God living in us. If we decide to do our best to love in difficult situations, it's a visible manifestation that God is living in us, if we do our best to love.
And I think the people that you're in a difficult situation with, if you're loving in that spirit, God touches their lives. You can't do any more than love and just leave it to God to do the rest on that person if you're in a difficult situation.
God will help us, and we need to trust him, as it says in that message, and to build that trust we need to nourish our faith with prayer, and to try and everything we say and do and think, that we ask God, have an open heart and say, God, guide me in this, help me to love, help me to know what I need to think, how I need to behave in this situation. If we constantly call upon God to help us, I think he will work surprising things in each one of us.
That's beautiful. And then Our Lady ends it with, I implore you to pray for your shepherds, that at every moment they have love. They may work for my Son with love, through him and in memory of him. Thank you. And when she talks about her shepherds, she's talking about the priests. And I think that's beautiful. Pray for the priests to work with love, that every moment they may have love, that they may work for my Son with love, through him and in memory of him. I think that's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And we need your love. We need your prayers, I should say. We need your love too, but we need your prayers.
Okay. Would you like to come back next week, Father?
Thank you very much, Mirella.
Beautiful. You've been watching Spirit of Life. I'm Mirella Rich, and our guest was Father Peter Fawurda. We'll see you again next week.